Now again, here's Art.
Well, you've just heard 2 hours of an absolute classic. We are going to do a material follow-up and a program follow-up. Coming up in a moment is David Icke. Not Icky, but Icke. It's I-C-K-E, and I can understand how people get confused. We'll talk to David about that in a moment, and I think you're going to enjoy what lies ahead, so once again, don't touch that dial. I'll tell you a little bit about David Icke, and it is Icke, not Icky. He's billed as the most controversial and challenging man in Britain. He speaks openly about issues that others fear discussing. He exposes the lies and deceit of thousands of years and reveals the biggest secret, how humanity has been controlled and manipulated since prehistory by extraterrestrial gods, small g, and the secret society network they created and continue to orchestrate today. In this profusely illustrated presentation, he exposes an astonishing web of interconnected manipulation to reveal that the same few people, secret societies, organizations control the daily direction of our lives. They engineer wars, terrorist outrages, political assassinations, control the world market in hard drugs, the media indoctrination machine. He reveals how religions, politics, banking, and business have been designed from the beginning to control and suppress human potential in pursuit of long-term agendas. The mental, emotional, and spiritual enslavement of the human race. He shows how spiritual and scientific knowledge has been hoarded in the hands of the few since ancient times, while being systematically withdrawn from public circulation. Oh my, that's quite an introduction. Here is David Icke. David, welcome.
Thank you, Art. Yeah, that should fill a nice 3 hours, shouldn't it, really?
It certainly will. David, your last name is spelled I-C-K-E, and in the last couple of weeks since I've been sort of mentioning that you're going to be around, I've heard other people say Icky, and I fell into the same rut and said Icky. Nobody would pronounce their name Icky. But when you were a child, David, based on how it's spelled here, did you have a rough time with this one?
No. They called me Icke.
They called you Icke?
Yeah. I mean, you don't pronounce the C. Actually, funny enough, I had a friend, his name was Bill Shufflebottom, and I said to him once, have you ever thought of changing your name? He said, yeah. I said, I was going to call myself Charlie Shufflebottom at one time, he said, but I never got around to it, Well, what's in a name and all that?
Well, children in Britain are obviously much more kind-hearted, not so mean-spirited.
Oh, no, they're just the same. They're the same the world over. But,
are they? So they never called you Icky?
Not that I recall.
All right. Anyway, I just sort of read a broad outline of the incredible road we're about to go down.
Uh-huh.
How did you come to all of this, I think, would be the proper first question.
Well, it's like everything. It's a journey. I started out life as a professional soccer player in England when I left school back in the late 60s.
A professional
soccer player, yeah. I was a goalkeeper. Yeah, they used to call me Cinderella because I kept missing the ball, But
no kidding. I actually came to love soccer. I went to France during Coupe du Monde, and I had never been exposed to soccer, and I saw the English game playing Argentina, and it was astounding. I sat in my hotel room in Paris and I watched that, and I became a soccer fan. Boom.
Yeah, well, I was doing that, back in the 60s. But arthritis finished my career when I was 21 and became a journalist and worked for newspapers and radio, and eventually became a frontline television link man with the BBC. And towards the end of the 80s, however, in fact earlier than that, I started looking at the world and what was going on, and didn't like what I saw. And towards the end of the 80s, more in the very early 90s, I went through what you might call I guess, a spiritual awakening. It was more like an explosion. Not religious, by the way. God save us from religion. A spiritual awakening when I started to realize that there was far more to life and the human entity and who we were and the power that we had than ever we were told, because we're given this choice, basically, between a judgmental God and if you listen to this guy in a long frock, he'll tell you what God wants, and so listen to me and you'll be fine. And on the other side, what we laughingly call science, which basically says this world is all there is, and we're all a cosmic accident. And it's quite a choice to make, you know. Am I subject to some judgmental God, or am I a cosmic accident? And I started to realize that there was far more evidence available that was being suppressed in the public arena. And so I started on this journey of uncovering this suppression, and it was a trickle to start with, and as the 90s have unfolded, I've been in over 20 countries in the last 18 months talking and researching, because if you're doing this job, you've got to listen as much as you talk, or you don't pick up the evidence and the information that's available. And the suppression of what you might call spiritual information became the suppression of political information, the suppression of how a very few people control this world through a series of interconnecting pyramids in which most people in those pyramids haven't got a clue what's going on. You know, people say, it's the Freemasons. Well, you know, I've got a lot of friends who are Freemasons, and they're completely in the dark about what's going on. It's not the Freemasons. It's not the Jews. It's not the anyone. It's an organization that works through all of these apparently uncontrolled areas of life and manipulates to a particular and very long-term agenda, a great point in which we're now facing as this 20th century comes to a close. And it's an organization within all organizations, not the Freemasons or whatever. They work through all these different organizations. And so it's been a journey, and getting the information now is no longer a problem. It's a tidal wave, because once you put your head above the trench with this, you attract people in with information who don't know what to do with it or are frightened to put it out themselves. The challenge I have is not gathering information, it's fitting the picture together and seeing how the pieces fit together and how that affects what's coming up now across the millennium, because this is a particular time when a lot of cards are going to be played to put the human race into a position of even greater mental and emotional imprisonment than we've been thus far.
At the beginning of all this, you suggest, right at the beginning of what I read, that humanity has been controlled and manipulated since prehistory by extraterrestrial gods and the secret society network they created and continue to orchestrate. What proof do you have of that, or what convinced you might be a better question?
Well, to see the scale of the evidence, people have to read the books that I write, which are lengthy and detailed, and this particular one's coming out, The Biggest Secret, in the new year, in February. Because what I do is I take vast amounts of information from different sources, and I look for the key common themes. I look for the cross-references. I look for the common things that keep coming up that push you in a certain direction. I don't follow a belief system. I follow information. I let the information be my guide to where I go, not preconceived ideas. And when you fit the information together from vast numbers of sources, you can pick up in the ancient world basically the kind of areas where Zecharia Sitchin talks about, and others too, not just him, about this Anunnaki and the hybrid race that was created, this Anunnaki stroke human hybrid race. And then you look at the Book of Enoch, which is just a version of a much older book, the Book of Noah. And it talks there about the Watchers and how the Watchers, which for me and many others when they read it, are clearly an advanced race of probably not of this world who were around at that time. And that talks too about how the Watchers interbred with humanity. You look at other ancient texts, it actually describes the birth of these hybrid children in very common terms, common theme terms, them being very white with white hair and with shining eyes, as one said, eyes that shine like the sun.